Good morning, Morai Rabotai, Bruchim Abayim. We're continuing on Masechet Makkot, and we're on the Tet Vav, Amud Aleph, 6 lines up from the bottom of the Amud. Amar de Papa. Today's Amud is being learned as a skut for the Refuah Shalema of David ben Fereshtet, as a skut for Refuah Shalema of Rachel Simcha bat Nahid, and Mordechai Afshin ben Shoshana Shana, so we'll have speedy recovery, Refuah Shalema Be'ezrat Hashem. Amen. This month's learning is dedicated, sponsored by Dayan family, by Kohen family, Shem family. Should have ultimate hatzlacha in all of their endeavors. Amen. So we spoke about the Shita of Rabbi Yochanan of lav shkdamo aseh. So we all established that everyone agrees that when you have a lav hanitak la'aseh, the Torah gives you a don't do, and if you did it, you do an aseh to fix it, then you don't get malkut. That you already have established. The question we dealt with in the past Amud was, how about if you have not lav hanitak la'aseh, but lav shkdamo aseh, meaning, according to the Ritba and some of the other Rishonim, that the aseh is preceded to the lav. It's mentioned chronologically before the lav, or at the very least, the aseh stands alone, that could exist without the transgression of the lav. In other words, a lav hanitak la'aseh is when you steal, then you return the gezelah. You cannot return this stolen object if you haven't stolen, right? You can't burn the leftover of the korban in the morning if there are no leftovers in the morning, right? Until you transgress the don't do of the Torah, there's nothing to do. So that we understand. But how about if I tell you, well, if you're tameh, if you're impure, go out of the machaneh, go out of the, let's say, if you have sarat, if you have leprosy, go outside of all the 3 machanot, go out of the encampment of the Jewish people. But if you come to Beit HaMikdash, then you get malkut, then you get karet. So how about then? Well, you don't have to transgress the coming of to Beit HaMikdash tameh in order to go out of the machaneh. It's 2 separate things. The aseh, the do, the positive mitzvah stands alone, that when you're tameh, you get out of the encampment. So that is what we discussed before. Rabbi Yochanan was the one initially that said, a lav shekdamo aseh, you do get malkut, you do get lashes for it. The obvious example is what we just mentioned, of entering the mikdash, where the Mishnah in Daf Yud Gimel, the Mishnah in the beginning of our 3rd parak says, Haba leMikdash tameh, right? Hatameh she'achal et hakodesh v'hava el hamikdash tameh, they get lashes. Then we ask the obvious question on Rabbi Yochanan, which seems to have made him retrieve and retract his psak of the person handling this situation of rape, right? We went back and forth and discussed that, and we had an answer. And the answer that the Gemara gave in the name of Rava, which closed our previous shiur, was, you can't ask a question from a case of rape. Because in the case of rape, it says, Lo yuchal shalecha kol yamav. This man has to marry her. Positive mitzvah. Lo yuchal shalecha. You can't send her away. Kol yamav. All of your days. Well, you have to add the 3rd element of kol yamav. To tell you, kol yamav be'amod ve'achzer kai. All of his days, he needs to get married to her again, even if he divorced her. So that's equivalent of saying, don't divorce her, Lav. If you divorced her, go back and marry her. Lav hanitak lase. It's your old, good old lav hanitak lase. That's how we ended up. So what do we have in our hands? Lav hanitak lase. Yes malkud or no? No malkud. Lav shkedamo ase. Yes malkud or no? Yes malkud. That's how we ended up. Rabbi Yochanan, and that's how he's sticking with. Now Rav Papa challenges the entire premise of Rabbi Yochanan. He says, wait a second. You're telling me that you could have a scenario in which you have a lav and aseh combined, and yet you get malkut, right? Lav shkita mo aseh, according to Rabbi Yochanan, you get malkut. So how is that possible? I remember 2 dapim ago, in the beginning of our journey here, we discussed that a lav that gets lashes has to be dumya the lav de chasima. Has to be, because it's juxtaposed together with the lav of chasima, that if you are processing your produce and you have to take the shaft out of the shells out of the grain, that you would have a process of dash, and you have a cow, walking with this heavy load behind it on this produce over and over again, and that's how you would peel off, so to speak, the shells and the straws, separate all of them from the actual produce. And there you cannot muzzle the animal. You can't. It's asur. Lo tachsom shor betisho. When your cow is doing dash, lo tachsom, don't close its mouth. That's how we had the Gemara comparing any lav that you get malkut to the lav of chasima, right? If you don't remember it, that means chazara is the thing, right? You got to do on lav yud gimel. We had this drasha, right? Says the Gemara. Wait a second. Last I checked, lav of chasima doesn't have an aseh, doesn't have a positive mitzvah attached to it. If you're telling me that this has to be exactly like the lav of chasima, so it has to be a lav without an accompaniment of an aseh. This is not. You told me the Torah juxtaposes them for a reason. To tell me that the only transgressions that I get lashes for are things that are like the lav of chasima. Now, lav of chasima doesn't have a mitzvah aseh attached to it. No, it just says don't do it. That's all. So that by itself should tell me that any lav that is accompanied by a positive mitzvah aseh should not get lashes. Right? What you're telling me, a lav shekadamu aseh, a lav that is preceded by aseh, does get malkut. How does that work? That's how our Gemara starts. So take a look, 5 lines up from the bottom of the Amud. Amale Rav Papa the Rava is asking on the very core element of this psak of Rabbi Yochanan. Veha lo dami lelav de chasima. This is not similar to the lav of lo tachsom shor b'dishon. Amale, so Rava asks back to Rav Papa's surprise, says, what do you mean? Just because you have an additional mitzvah aseh becomes any less? Mishum de kata berachmana aseh yetera mikra gara. Just because you added a positive mitzvah becomes less, and now you're not going to get lashes for it. When we say it has to be like the lav of chasima, we're talking about the lav, not the aseh part. If you have the proper lav, which is dumya the lav de chasima, which is similar to the lav of lo tachsom, of not muzzling the cow, if your negative mitzvah is similar and comparable and compatible with the lav of chasima, you're good to go. Even if you added an aseh, so what? It just makes it worse. Does it make it better? That shouldn't take away the lashes. So then Rav Papa fires back right away. He says, wait a second. If you're telling me that aseh doesn't make it better, how do you understand lav hanitat aseh? Isn't the whole reason that you don't get malkut with a lav hanitat, don't steal, Do you get lashes on stealing? No. Why? Because it has an assay. The whole reason that you don't get lashes is because there is a mitzvah assay attached to it. So why can't I ask the question that any time that you have assay, you should take the malkut away, because it's not like love the chasima. He says the Gemara, lav shenitak la'aseh nami, lema mishum de kata berachmana aseh yetera mikra gara. You should say the same surprised comment, Mr. Rava, on Rav hanitak la'aseh. But you agree and I agree and everybody agrees that lav hanitak la'aseh, because of the assay, you don't get lashes. So why can't I just say any assay should take away the lashes? Because it's not like lav the chasima. Maybe, just maybe, when the Torah is coming to tell you the juxtaposition of not muzzling the cow next to the punishment of malkut, it's telling you something very profound. Maybe the Torah is coming to tell you that any love that is accompanied with an assay, you don't get malkut, you don't get lashes. Gemara answers, says no. Amal, Rabbi answers to Rabbi. You can't possibly understand it like this, because when you have a lav and right afterwards you have an assay, the Torah is coming to tell you, don't do this, don't steal. Let's go to our good old example. Don't steal, but if you stole, make sure to return it, not to get lashes. In other words, the Torah itself is giving you a fix not to get lashes. You fix it by returning it. But if you have a different assay that has nothing to do with it, it stands alone, stands on its own feet, then you don't have that, says Rava. Now the Gemara is going to ask something very interesting, another fundamental item in Shas. This parak is packed and loaded by conceptual things that you need to go through Shas with. So you get geared up, so to speak, in all those things. So this is one more. When we talk about lav hanitak la'aseh, when we speak about a negative mitzvah that is followed by a positive fix, like don't steal, if you stole, return it. In your mind, there should be two ways to understand this, right? How does the assay take care of the lav? Is it that as the moment I stole, I already should get lashes? The moment I stole, like any other lav. If I steal, and there are two people say don't steal, right? You get lashes if you do it. So the moment I steal, I become chayav malkut. I could take care of that obligation of lashes by returning it. Right? Is that the understanding? Or the understanding is the opposite? If you stole, you don't get lashes. Why? Because it's fixable. You hear how it sounds? It's fixable. A lav that's fixable, you don't get lashes for. But what if I stole, and now I destroyed any possibility of returning it? I ate it. Now I can't return it anymore. I burnt it. I sold it. There's no way to return it anymore. So maybe the moment that I destroyed the bridge of going back, and I nullified the ability of ever returning, because that's the moment that I now get lashes. You hear what the difference? Now we're going to have terminologies for it in the Gemara, but it's much easier to understand it conceptually. What happens with the chiyuv malkut? Is it like any other law that the moment I transgress, I'm already, the obligation of malkut is hanging over my head unless I take it away somehow? Oh, you return it, now you took it away. Or maybe I never had the obligation of malkut because it's a fixable law. Unless I destroy the possibility of fixing it. I nullify the ability to go back. So that makes a difference, as we will see. So says the Gemara, Hanicha leman de'amar, last line, bitelo velo bitelo. This only works, this answer that Rava gave only works according to those who say the obligation of Malkut and the heter, meaning the fact that you don't get Malkut, is because bitelo velo bitelo, right? That means until the moment that you are mebatel, you nullify the possibility of returning the gezerah, the possibility of fixing the lav that you did. Until that moment, you have no chiyuv of malkut. You have no obligation of getting lashes. So therefore, now it makes sense. Kol yamav be'amod ve'hachzerka. You remember how we said you don't get lashes for honest, for the case of rape, because even if you divorced her, you still have a chiyuv of remarrying her. When are you gonna remarry? Well, the hotels are taken. You know how it works, right? Before you know it, it's 2 years they're engaged. That's how. Still, you can't get in malkut because you still could marry her. So long as you have the possibility of going back and fixing the lav, you still don't get malkut. So that works beautifully. But according to the Manda Amar, if you say that the obligation of malkut is on you, right? The Bedin say, do it right now. We could lash you right now, unless you prove otherwise. So we do say here, the ring, haram b'kudesh, no, boom, right? So then you can't say kol yamah, but that doesn't work. It's very time limited, right? If you say kiyemo v'lo kiyemo, ma'ika dememar, how can you answer that? So the Gemara says, midi hutama ela Rabbi Yochanan. This whole thing that lav shektamo asay, that you get lashes for it, is according to who? Rabbi Yochanan, right? So you need this bitelo v'lo bitelo only according to Rabbi Yochanan. Guess what Rabbi Yochanan holds in this machloket? Does Rabbi Yochanan hold kiyemo v'lo kiyemo or bitelo v'lo bitelo? Rabbi Yochanan is the one that actually holds clearly. We know, we have it on record, that he holds bitelo v'lo bitelo. In other words, Rabbi Yochanan holds that you will get lashes only if you destroy the possibility of ever going back. So long as you haven't destroyed the possibility of going back, even if the time lapse is a lot, you don't have an obligation of getting lashes. Are we good to go? Says the Gemara, Ha'amar le Rabbi Yochanan le Tana. Rabbi Yochanan told the Tana in the Bet Midrash, Tani bitelo hayam. He explicitly said that the only time that you get lashes is if you nullified the possibility of going back and fixing the issue that you transgressed. So long as you have not destroyed the possibility, you still will get lashes, right? So therefore, you still get, well, you don't get lashes, sorry, if you have not, the other way around. Again, this is a little complex because according to the Ramban, the Meiri, and many other Rishonim, the Girsai is exactly the opposite. So, scratch that. I'm not saying the two ways because it's going to confuse it even more. But it says Rabbi Yochanan, if it's not mebatel, if you don't nullify the opportunity of going back, and let's say returning the Avedah, if you don't go and burn the gezelara, the stolen object, and you don't eat it, if it's still there, then you don't get lashes. Even if the time lapse is a long time, still you don't get lashes.
Or what if the animal dies?
That's it. What if somebody else caused it to be nullified?
Doesn't make a difference.
As long as it's nullified,
Yeah.
he doesn't have to.
Yeah. So long as you could do it still, you're good to go. If you don't no longer have the opportunity of returning it, then tough. Then you gotta go get lashes. It says the Gemara.
But how come here we can't? the animal, you give the dollar amount of the animal back, or the equivalent. Why are we not using money to exchange for the object?
Because it says, good question, it says, you have to return the object, right? Now you have to, of course, you have a Choshen Mishpat obligation, but it's not the fix, right? Says the Gemara. The Tana, where do we see that Rabbi Yochanan said this, by the way? Where do you see that Rabbi Yochanan says is bitelo and no bitelo, that so long as you have not taken away the option of returning the Gezelah or fixing the lav that you did, you don't get Malkut? The Tani Tana Kamed Rabbi Yochanan. We know this is how it's recorded. That the Tana said in front of Rabbi Yochanan, Kol mitzvat lo ta'aseh sheyesh bo kum aseh. Any mitzvat aseh that has a kum ba'aseh attached to it, any negative mitzvah that is followed by a positive mitzvah, don't steal. If you stole, return it. Don't leave over the korban until the morning. If you did, burn it. Right? Any of those types of mitzvot, aseh, the mitzvot lo ta'aseh hanitak la'aseh, says the Gemara, Kiyem aseh sheba patur. If you did the mitzvah aseh, then you're patur from malkut. Right? That means if you return the gezelah, you don't get malkut. Right? This sounds like if you don't do it right away, bad news, you get malkut. Right? Bitel aseh sheba. If you nullified the mitzvah aseh, that means you just burnt the stolen object, you ate it, you destroyed it, then chayav, then you get malkut. Which sounds like, so long as I haven't destroyed the opportunity, I don't get malkut. So the beginning and the end of the sentence doesn't rhyme, doesn't make any sense together. Because what about the middle scenario? The scenario that I haven't returned it, but I also haven't destroyed the opportunity to return it. According to the Reisha, the beginning of the sentence is mashma that you should get malkut. You should get lashes. According to the diuk from the Seifa, from the last part of the same sentence, is mashma that I don't get malkut. So how do you say it? Says the Gemara. What did you say? It makes no sense what you said. The sentence doesn't read. Kiyem patur lo kiyem chayav. If you're telling me kiyemo you patur means if you haven't returned it, even though that's in your pocket, you get lashes. Lo bitelo patur. But then you say bitelo chayav. If you nullified the thing, you burnt it, you're chayav. But if you have it in your hand, in your pocket, you are patur. So then it's a stira mineube, it's a contradiction. So the Gemara, Tani, Rabbi Yochanan told him, no, say bitelo velo bitelo. This is where Rabbi Yochanan says in black and white clearly, you have to say bitelo velo bitelo. In other words, Rabbi Yochanan is the one that holds, if you stole, so long as you have the object, even if a year has passed, but you still have the object, you still don't get malkut. The Bedin comes to give you malkut, right? You don't get malkut until you nullify the opportunity, the ability of fixing the lav with the mitzvah aseh, right? So therefore now, all of the things that we said falls in place according to Rabbi Yochanan, we're good to go. So says the Gemara, where Rabbi Shlomo Yisraeli, his brother-in-law, his chavruta, Rish Lakish, holds exactly not like that, the opposite, right? Says the Gemara, Rabbi Shlomo Yisraeli Omer, kiyemo velo kiyemo. It's going to be a kiyemo velo kiyemo. So how does Rabbi Rish Lakish understand lav shekedamo aseh? He doesn't. According to Rabbi Rish Lakish, if you do a lav shekedamo aseh, do you or do you not get malkut? You don't get malkut. It's the equivalent of lav hanitak la'aseh. Now the Gemara says, B'mai kamifligi. What is the core of their machloket? In other words, we explain this as the terminology of how it works. But why there is a machloket, we haven't discussed. How do you know? How do you know that if I have a lav hanitak la'aseh, and the Torah says don't steal, and if you stole, return it, how do I know that I don't get malkut right away? The Bedin says return it right now, or else get malkut, right? How do you know how to slice this? And says the Gemara, it depends on another shas-wide question, which is even much more profound than this one, and that is hakra'at safek. Let me just explain this in a 30-second period, and then we'll explore this. This is a fantastic concept that comes on mainly in Masechet Sanhedrin, but it's really all over Shas of hakra'at safek. Imagine if you see somebody doing something wrong. They don't get killed, even if you prove that they did it. Somebody killed somebody deliberately, and you have witnesses that he killed him deliberately. If they don't give him hatra'ah, if they don't give him a warning right before he does it, he doesn't get killed. And the same applies with malkut as well. If someone is doing something that deserves lashes, but you don't have edim warning him, so don't do this, if you do it, you get malkut. He doesn't get malkut. You need hatra'ah. For any punishment, you need warning. So what if I gave a hatra'ah in a way that was not clear? Hatra'at safek. I don't know if he's going to actually get malkut. For instance, if someone steals, right? So stealing happens to be that's lav hanitak la'aseh, fine. But if he's stealing, don't steal. If you steal, you're going to get what? Malkut. Is he? Well, you have no idea. It's safek, because maybe he's going to return it and not get, or maybe he's going to eat it or burn it right away, and then it's no longer lav hanitak la'aseh.
So it's not a warning, you say?
Oh, is it a warning?
Why not?
At the moment that you're giving the warning, you have no idea when you're telling him, if you do it, you're going to get malkut. No, it's
Okay,
not.
so he's not-
Maybe he is. No, maybe he is. Maybe he's not. If he decides to return it, he's not going to get malkut. If he decides to eat it, to destroy it somehow, then he's going to get malkut. So the moment that you tell him, don't do it, if you do it, you get malkut, it's hatra'at safek. You don't know if he's going to get malkut if he does it. Is that considered hatra'ah? Or maybe that's nothing. Hatra'ah has to be a solid 100% thing. You're warning him. What kind of warning is this? You may get malkut if you do this. Right? That is going to be actually the machloket of the Rabbi Yochanan, which is a fascinating Shas concept, which we're going to discuss in the next show.